live. And I wish we could be live from Los Angeles right now to see what's going on in light of the riots that have been going on since Thursday and Friday of last week. So we're going to have a report about 8:15, 8:30 from Los Angeles as to what's going on there. Let me bring you up to date on a couple of other things. This idea that, all these people are sweet, nice little people, it's a shame. The mayor comes on and says, interrupting these people who are working so hard. And Gavin Newsom says, they're just trying to go about their business. And the group that was arrested, I don't know all of them, but one of them is convicted of second-degree murder. That's a guy named Fan. Then there's another guy named Veneracion Enriquez from the Philippines. He's guilty of burglary and of sexual penetration with a foreign object and assault with intent to commit rape. And then there's a guy named Lionel Sanchez Laguna. He was battery on spouse or cohabitant. In other words, he beat the hell out of his wife or girlfriend, which seems to be rather common among these guys. Willful cruelty to a child, assault with a semi-automatic weapon, Armando Ordaz, sexual battery, petty theft, and receiving stolen property. Francisco Sanchez Arguello, grand theft, larceny, possession of a prohibited weapon. Jose Gregorio Medranda Ortiz, conspiracy to possess with intent to serve 5 kilograms or more of cocaine. Victor Mendoza Aguilar, possessing unlawful paraphernalia, possessing controlled substance, assault with a deadly weapon, and obstructing a public officer. This guy is from Mexico, the country that's invading us, at least if you go by the flags they're carrying. Delfino Aguilez Martinez, assault with a deadly weapon. I could go on. Come on. Then another guy, robbery. Another one, distribution of heroin and cocaine. Another one, conspiracy to transport human trafficking. And there's one hero's record I don't have. So, that's a fair number just to start with. That these were criminals. And if they weren't criminals, they're here illegally. What are we supposed to let them just stay here? And the mayor says that this is all caused by ICE. If ICE hadn't come and done these arrests, this wouldn't have happened. So what are we supposed to do? Let the illegals just remain there? We can't go to California to enforce federal law? I don't know why people live there. If it isn't this, it's fires. And when the president made his decision to deploy, it had to be in his mind that they don't know what they're doing. He sat there and watched them let the city almost burn down. They don't even know how to fill fire hydrants. Liberals should not be allowed to run anything. They're too, who knows what they are. But one of the things they've done is created a Disneyland for all of Los Angeles. They think they live in a place where you can violate federal law at will. The governor can, the mayor can. The law says that you've got to come in a certain way, submit certain documents, be subjected to a vetting process, which is all a sensible thing to do, particularly in a world that has so many dangers. And people who don't, but they can get away with it. In California, it's okay. And you better not interfere with us. Do you ever think that Newsom and Mayor Bass that they're in rebellion? Sure sounds that way. This is what George Wallace. We're going to stand in front of the door. Well, they had to bring in the National Guard. They were also, just to give you an idea, just in San Antonio the other day, a gentleman named Jimmy Friesenhan, who is a 14-year Marine, got out of the Marines unharmed. He got attacked by an illegal migrant who shot him when he was working as a security guard, and he's now paralyzed, and he can't speak, all because Biden let the guy in. Now, you want to know the polls? I don't know if polls really matter, but this is a poll from CBS, so it has to be off by 5 or 10% against Trump. 54% of U.S. adults approve of the deportation effort, and 46% disapprove. I don't believe that, by the way. But it still shows that a majority approve of it. Then 42% say that the president policies are making America safer, compared with only 30% who said it's less safe, and 27% who either don't know or don't see a change. Well, Abrego Garcia is back. Isn't that great? Senator Van Hoevenboel got his way, and the Attorney General let him come back. So now he has been hit with an indictment of regularly transporting men, women, and children in unsafe conditions for profit and abusing women that he was transporting. The prosecutors claim there are 6 witnesses, and they have camera images, cell phone data, and financial records to prove that. They also say that he solicited nude photographs from minors beginning in 2020, but they haven't brought those charges. Maybe they don't want to have to use the minors. If they can get rid of them this way, it's good enough. And maybe they can show this evidence to the judge for the purpose of sentencing. Abrego Garcia is the darling of the elitists and the left, and so now they have him back. The question is, are they going to let him out on bail? I don't know how you can let an illegal out. Please remember, whatever else you think about, the guy is here illegally. He has no legal right to be in the United States. The only reason it was held up was because they had fear of being harmed by a competing criminal group in Venezuela that has now been extinguished. So the 2 decisions that found him illegal and he should get thrown out have no reason to not be enforced. You shouldn't even have to have this trial. It should just go to court. They should point out that this group is gone. He has no right to asylum. He didn't have right to asylum anyway. You're not protected against criminal groups if you're a criminal. But they're now going to try him for this and try to put him in jail for 30 or 40 years, I guess, which means it's going to it means it's going to cost us money, right? We're going to have to do something with this guy, right? And if we send him back to Venezuela, maybe they send him back again. So we may be stuck with spending millions of dollars on keeping this guy in a prison. Now, these people who are rioting are criminals themselves. They're not all paid, but a lot of them are. The 2 groups behind them is one that's pretty much been bankrolled by Biden, and the other has been bankrolled by the Chinese Communist Party. Nice, right? And on Sunday, there was a rally, and the rally was for hostages, which is a very intense subject, correct? And it was in Central Park. And they had several of the hostages who have been freed speak. And they had a memorial for Judy Weinstein and Gad Haggai, whose bodies were recovered from Gaza last week. A lot of people very upset. Nothing burned. Nothing was thrown. No violence of any kind. It was really a peaceful demonstration. And Ted, do you have some video of that?
Yeah, we do.
Maybe we can show people how a peaceful demonstration works, and then we can show them how it doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, man. We're getting up.
Well,
yeah. So this is from. So look, this is a good example. We want to contrast this, what you're about to see, with the pro-Hamas rallies that you regularly see popping up. So we're gonna play that right now. Have it on the side there while you're talking. So what you're seeing there is a peaceful demonstration from a previous pro-Israel rally. And it's right? You compare that. I don't see anything burning. Right. I don't see any Mexican flag. I don't see any cars smashed up. It seems to be just a few police. Right.
Nobody's fighting with the police.
Right.
Well, that's the way a rally is supposed to take place.
That's right, Mayor, and we're just...
That's what a rally that they do looks like. Why don't you put that on?
We're just a minute away from having our guests.
That was a peaceful rally you're watching there. That was a peaceful protest, according to the left-wing traitors, Newsom and Bass and all the Democrats, for the group of criminals that were arrested. The Marines have been deployed. 700 Marines are going to be added to the. Well, it's actually they only had 300. They have 2,000 ready. And they are going to be seamlessly integrated with the National Guard, which means that they will be involved in guarding the federal building. And they will also be involved in guarding the federal offices who the mayor of Los Angeles doesn't think it is entitled, or they are entitled to protection. She's very mad at them. She blames the whole thing on them. If they hadn't come according to Bass, this wouldn't have taken place, which means we should just let all the illegals, criminal or otherwise, just stay there in California. And we'll just say federal law doesn't apply to California because their governor and the mayor have seceded from the United States. They no longer follow the laws of the United States. And not only that, it's dangerous to send federal agents there because they're going to get hurt, they're going to get spit at, they're going to get beaten, and the police are not allowed to do anything to help them. When they asked for help, they were told we're not allowed to help. And the police commissioner or police chief or whatever the hell he is made that point during the press conference yesterday, and he should have been embarrassed to do it. He wouldn't be my police chief. That's for sure. But he's got a city that's a disaster anyway, so he can't be much of a police chief or commissioner or whatever the hell they have in California. It's sure it doesn't work, whatever it is. So, Ted?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any report from California? What's going on right now?
We'll be joined momentarily from our friend out in California. She's following this closely. And so we will have her. We're just minutes away from having her. So maybe we'll take a short break and come back.
Oh, we can do that, sure.
Yeah. So we'll be right back, folks. You'll want to stick around. We're going to have a live report from Los Angeles.
City under siege. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live. So this whole terrible riot was bound to happen. This is created completely by the long-term sanctuary city laws of Los Angeles and California, which are completely illegal and never been confronted as such. So during the course of this, the mayor told ICE and told the police, you can't help them. You can't help ICE. Meanwhile, they're getting spit at, they're getting rocks thrown at them, they're getting people hitting them, and they're getting crowds building up. And the police won't help them because the police are on the other side. They're on the side of the illegals. Well, the president did the right thing. He brought the National Guard in to protect them. Now the police have changed. And now they're confronting the rioters as usual with the way Democrats create riots. Too late, after they let the riot take off. I know how to contain riots. I'm an expert at it. I took over a city that used to have riots, and really bad ones. Some that were legendary, like the pogrom in Crown Heights, in which people were going around looking for Jewish people to kill for 4 days. And David Dinkins and his incompetent group, similar to this group, were giving them a cooling off period, cooling off while they burned part of the city down. I had a different view. There would be no cooling off period. There'd be an arrest the first time you broke the law. If you threw a rock, he got arrested. If you spit at a cop, you got arrested. If you damaged a car, you got arrested. And then we arrest the second one and a third one. And I told him, you know, you want to do this, test me. I mean, I got a lot of jail space and I can create even more. And I got a very, very large police department, the best in the world. And we don't have riots in New York. No such thing as riots. We don't allow them. You can peacefully protest. And I had plenty of peaceful protests, big ones. Left wing was constantly protesting. No riots. Because I have common sense and I'm a patriotic American. I'm not a whatever those two are and the whole group in California.
Well, Mayor, on that note, we do have a very special guest tonight, and we had her with the wildfires, so I guess we have to say it once again, not under the best circumstances considering what's happening in her home city, but of course we're very happy to have back on the program Katie Zakaria. Of course, Katie, a good friend of the show, is also the senior advisor and legal advisor to Fix California. And she's a Republican political strategist who many of our viewers have probably seen a lot more recently on places such as Fox, Newsmax, and elsewhere. Katie, you're on with the mayor.
So tell us, what's it like being there?
Well, I'm no stranger to this, right? We'll remember that President Trump visited California in 2018 to tell Gavin Newsom he was doing everything wrong with the wildfires. And then 2020 came around and he had to bail Gavin Newsom out again in the pandemic. And so here we are in 2025 and Gavin Newsom is still not getting it right. And it's pandemonium and chaos.
It's really, really terrible. I don't know how they justify this sanctuary city thing where, I mean, the mayor, the overall sanctuary city caused this, but the proximate cause was when the mayor held a press conference while ICE is in the middle of making these contentious arrests and says that this is not going to be allowed in my city. And the police department won't help them. So now they're getting spit at, they're getting things thrown at them, they're getting hit, and nobody's going to protect them. So what would any president do unless he were a Democrat? He brought out people to protect them, the National Guard.
Correct. The president is defending American citizens over illegal criminal aliens. And that is not what Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass are doing. They have yet to stand for California citizens in their entire tenure as mayor and as governor, right? Where was Karen Bass when the fires hit? She was in Ghana. And our city is still burned down and it's still a disaster. And Gavin Newsom has yet to deliver any solutions. So what's happening here, Mayor Giuliani, is the continued failure of leadership by Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, right? They abandon American citizens, California citizens, at the expense of illegal immigrants, right? Illegal criminal aliens, people who entered our country illegally, broke our laws, and are remaining in our country illegally, despite the government saying, we are going to come deport you. They had notice. And all President Trump is doing is delivering on his promise to deport criminal illegal aliens. And he's getting massive resistance from the governor and the mayor. Can you imagine that the mayor and governor are standing against a sitting president trying to enforce rule of law?
Yeah, I mean, one of the people arrested was convicted in California of burglary and sexual penetration with a foreign object. Another one was convicted of second-degree murder. Another one was convicted of sexual battery. Another one was convicted of grand theft larceny. I mean, it could be that some of them weren't convicted, but they don't have any right to be here either.
No, and a few of them were child molesters and child pedophiles. These are not people we want in our state. These are not people we want in our city. And quite frankly, I find it offensive. I do, that Gavin Newsom is running around suing President Trump for this and for that. So he's suing him for the tariffs. He's raised a whole bunch of money, like $50 million, or saved it to fight the sanctuary city law that President Trump is trying to get rid of. And now he's decided he's going to go sue President Trump in the wrong venue for his tariffs. And this is just Gavin Newsom putting on a show for the world and not doing anything as a leader of this state. And he's fighting President Trump on effective policies. President Trump came out last week and the Congressional Budget Office had to say, hey, these tariffs are actually working. In fact, we're going to save 2.8 trillion and put it towards our deficit, right? And here Gavin Newsom is suing President Trump for those very tariffs. So everything that's effective, Gavin Newsom is undermining. And it's just rule of law. He's completely destroying our state.
Well, does this continue, or will this abate? And then this is going to happen in another place. You've got these same sanctuary city laws in a number of places, and a few more are going to try to test it.
I think California shows to be one of the biggest strongholds of this Democrat activism, right? And I am so thankful that they went after California first. We have an amazing, let's hear some good news. We have an incredible U.S. attorney that was appointed by President Trump, Bill Assaly. He's a former assemblyman, and he is going to make sure that what the president wants done is done. And we have now the FBI director, Kash Patel, right behind the president, ready to help him and enforce rule of law. And so the truth is while it might happen in other places, we are starting to see that the reality is Americans want pushback. Americans want President Trump's policies. They don't want Karen Bass's policies. They don't want Gavin Newsom's policies. And so California is going to be a great example of what not to do and to actually follow rule of law and deport these criminal aliens and end sanctuary cities.
Well, that'd be great. God bless you. We hope so. We'll be checking in with you. Thank you. And stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that's I may be overly optimistic, but I think there's a good chance that if this is handled right, others will be discouraged from doing this. And she's absolutely right. California is probably the worst in terms of having completely rebelled against the United States. You know, when you have a press conference like the one that Bass had, and say that she's not going to cooperate with the federal government in its effort to protect our borders. Well, I mean, that's the function of the federal government, to protect our borders. You don't have a right as a state to say that we're going to undermine the federal laws with regard to protection of our borders. You talk about insurrection? I mean, this is absurd that he thinks he has a right to do this. I remember when they had to do this with George Wallace. He actually stepped aside finally and let them execute the federal law. But it was necessary for Kennedy to bring the National Guard in. And that sure as heck wasn't with the agreement of Governor Wallace. Well, this is exactly the same thing. This is a federal law, a very, very necessary one to protect our borders. It's absurd to say that we should just let people come in illegally and then do nothing about it. It's just idiotic. You can't be a country if you do that. There's no civilized country in the world that allows that, except, one that has a political party that has gone crazy, who wants to fight for Kwang Shang Fan to be let out of the detention center, who's guilty of second-degree murder. Maybe he can do a few more. Or that brings Abrego Garcia back. So maybe if he can get out, he can bang his girlfriend or wife around again. Or get involved in getting pornographic pictures of little kids. Or get involved in human trafficking. So we're going to have to see how this goes, but The National Guard right now, their function, and the Marines, is somewhat limited. Their function has been to protect federal property, which is important because one of the main targets here were the demonstrations in front of the Federal Detention Center and the federal agents. So they will now have the protection of the National Guard and the Marines. But the actual rioters are still the responsibility of the LAPD, which does not have a great record in dealing with rioting. This isn't NYPD, by no means. And the chief, or whatever the hell he is, didn't sound terribly convincing when he was trying to walk a political line. Wouldn't be my chief. I don't need a politician for a police chief. I need a cop. He should have refused to obey the sanctuary city laws. What is he, a Nazi prison guard? He's not. He has an obligation to uphold federal law. The mayor doesn't have. This isn't like a president of the United States. She's the commander in chief of anything. She's just a half-assed stupid mayor who spent her time at her inauguration in Africa while a city was burning down. Well, we'll have to see what happens now, but. So it has been revealed, and an investigation has started about Harvard's links to communist China, which is part of the findings that led to depriving them of a good deal of the money they get from the federal government, if not all of it. But this is a very close connection that has been revealed in two separate reports with a company called, make sure I pronounce it right, the Xinjiang Group, or the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corporation. It's a large Chinese Communist Party paramilitary organization. And Harvard was training them and getting paid for it. And U.S. authorities in 2020 imposed sanctions against that group, against the Xinjiang Group, because of their abusive practices against Uyghurs and Muslim minorities. And what this was all about was a program on health, including organ extraction. Now, China is the biggest violator of laws with regard to illegal organ extraction. Do you know what illegal organ extraction means? And you know who they do it with? The Uyghurs. And with the Falun Gong. They take your organs when you're alive. So they get a nice price for it. And they do it big time. Organized crime? Yeah, by the government. These are reports from Europe. There's no country in the world that does it at the scale done by China. And Harvard was giving them, it looks like a little instruction on how to do it. Beijing is a profit center for Harvard. Chinese citizens represent 2/3 of Harvard's international students. No, 23%. I'm sorry, not 2/3. 23% of Harvard's international students. And they pay big money. The university's number 2 source of large foreign gifts is Red China, behind only England. So if you combine 2023 and 2024, Harvard received $55.6 million in gifts from China. $56.6 million in gifts from communist China, plus $13.7 million in contracts. Extraordinary. No wonder they teach their students to be communists. Sounds like they're financed by the communists. Now, Xinjiang Corps is a very, very important group within the Chinese communist systems. And it works on health care, but also it works on organ extraction, which is a gigantic business in China, and also a method of political persecution because it focuses on Falun Gong and Uyghurs. And Harvard provided services to them and therefore violated the U.S. sanctions laws. And this is recorded in several private reports and now in a report from the House Committee, Select Committee on China by Molinar, Representative John Molinar. And they have now sent them a very, very detailed letter on exactly Harvard's view of this, what they have to say. And Harvard hasn't responded to the letter, which who knows when they're going to respond to it. Also, there's no question that they're connected to this group. A Chinese language website published by Harvard had the Xinjiang group listed as joining their training in 2019. And then after the problems all emerged, it's been removed. But there's no doubt that they were as part of the training and paid for some of it. So this is what we're dealing with Harvard. Is it the only university infiltrated by the Red Chinese? No. And are the Red Chinese involved in paying some of the people who are rioting in Los Angeles? Yes, they are. Through a multi-billionaire who resides, I believe, in Shanghai. So this explains why, and these things are never pursued, and I don't know why, but there should be a major investigation of just how it came about that Governor Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, and all of the big shots in San Francisco, Pelosi et al., had a grand celebration for Xi Jinping when he came to the United States, and a parade for him, with thousands and thousands of Chinese people lining the streets of San Francisco, cheering for the man alive who's killed the most Chinese people. There's nobody in the world that's killed as many Chinese people as Xi Jinping. And there they are being forced to applaud for him, paid for by the California Democrats. When Newsom was thinking of replacing Trump, of replacing Biden, he went to visit Xi Jinping, probably to get his permission. This is extremely dangerous. And if you don't think China is involved in trying to see if they can help create another Floyd summer for us, then you're foolish. Well, we got a different president this time. Well, not really. Actually, we had President Trump then, but it was during the pandemic. And it was with a little bit of different group of advisors, like his Secretary of Defense told him, only under the absolute worst of circumstances will we use the military. This Secretary of Defense says, no, we'll follow the law. Other presidents have used the military. You can use the military. The laws are there. This falls right within within the law. 12 USC. I'm sorry, 10 USC 12406. If it gets worse, it'll fall within under the Insurrection Act. And if they are going to continue their sanctuary city stance and not protect the federal agents who are enforcing the immigration laws, then we have to the president has to send federal troops there to act as their protection, and also to keep the detention facility secure because they were attacking it. Also, with the U.S. attorney appointed by President Trump, I'm looking forward to these people being prosecuted as opposed to just being released. The reality is the president of the United States can do many things at once. So as he's working on this, he's actually gotten the military organizations in Europe enthusiastic about finally reaching their goals for NATO. But not only that, the new Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, in Brussels said that he is going to, first of all, he's going to move the contribution from 2%, which almost all of them have met now. Believe it or not, Spain was at 1.28%, Canada at 1.37%. Meanwhile, Poland is above 4%. The Baltic states are at 5%. So he's going to move it up immediately to 3.5%, with a goal in about 3 years of having it at 5%. Now, at 3.5%, we're a little off. We're at 3.38% of our budget, or our GDP is devoted to defense. Now, under Ronald Reagan, we were over 5%. We got to get there again. This is a good spur, a good push in the right direction, because it's the best way to deter China. Just spin them into the ground, particularly now that they're having financial difficulties. So he's going to propose this, I think, I guess it's the next NATO meeting. And that'll be 5% of GDP. And then also to take 1.5% and put it into security-related infrastructure spending, so you can get ready for the 5% that's going to be required of all of these countries in about 3 years. Meanwhile, Russia is very upset with Rutte, and they say he's a warmonger. Imagine Russia accusing someone of being a warmonger with all the killing they're doing in the Ukraine. Also, it looks like Riley Gaines has caught Simone Biles in a really big contradiction. For some reason, Simone got upset because Riley Gaines was very vocal about the fact that that a basketball team used a biological male, to win not the high school team, used a biological male to win a state championship in Minnesota. A pitcher who threw a shutout was a male, saying that he wanted to be a female, but having all of the sexual characteristics of a male, including the most important one. So she pointed out how unfair that was, that they were able to win because they had somebody who could throw, I don't know if it was a no-hitter or it was a shutout. It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this is just crazy. Do we have to go any further than it's crazy? Now, why this got why this got Simone Biles all upset, I have no idea. But she called Gaines a sick bully, and said that she should pick on people her own size, which are men, and said that she is being extremely unfair to trans people and attacking their rights. And so Riley Gaines, being the smart individual that she is, took a look at her history, at Simone Giles' history, and found out that Biles referred to men who participate in female sports as sick bullies. Good thing guys don't compete against girls, or he'd take all the gold medals, Biles wrote in the 2017 tweet. So Riley says, I guess she was a sick bully in 2017. So I don't know how Simone Biles reconciles her now attack on Riley Gaines for exercising common sense when she herself basically had that same view. So it's so important that we straighten out the damage done by the communists and the left-wingers and the atheists and sick individuals on this whole gender dysmorphia and gender issue. It creates such tremendous unfairness, but it also drives lots of kids to tremendous confusion over this, and it leads to suicides. This is not a just a minor subject. It's very, very important because young people in their early teen and teen years are extraordinarily impressionable. They're trying to figure out who and what they are. And the idea of confusion about sexual identity is not rare. I mean, it happens to perfectly solid males and females who fantasize about it, think about it, even consider it, and then realize it would be a terrible mistake. Well, they don't get the time to do that anymore because these animals pounce on them for the money and for the destruction of our culture and civilization. And it's very, very important that we stand up to this. President's been 100% on this, and I have so much respect for Riley Gaines in calling these out that it's really, really important. I know Simone Biles is somewhat of a hero, and I don't care who she is. This kind of stupid thing has to be called out. The other thing that we really have to spend some time, some serious time studying, and we are, but we're in an AI race with China, and first of all, you have the AI we know about, artificial intelligence that we know about. And just recently, we went through a study in which the computer turned on the operator, and when it was warned that it was going to be turned off, it started to threaten the operator. And in one case, they fed it a false story about the operator having an affair, and it threatened to reveal the affair. That's the computer did that. And now we're moving into a new level of AI called ASI. And this is an attempt to exceed human intelligence. It doesn't exist yet, but there are a number of prototypes for it, both in the United States and in China. And there's a real race to see who can get there. Because if you can get there, it doesn't matter if you have the military advantage. This could find ways to disable you with the flip of a switch. So we are extremely aggressive about developing this, and so is China. Now, J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, when he met with the Pope, talked to the Pope about this, and the Pope also was very concerned about this. And he suggested possibly the Pope putting the United States and China together to talk about this. And the idea would be the idea would be that this is like what the nuclear weapons were like during the Cold War, when either one of us, first the U.S., then Russia, then maybe China, could destroy the world. And because of that, there was enough common sense to sit down, and even when we were tremendously opposed to each other, to try to work out certain rules, even disarmament, transparency. This would create a world that nobody would want to take over. And hopefully the Chinese are wise enough. The Russians were. They were wise enough to see that. Hopefully the Chinese will be wise enough to see it. And I credit J.D. Vance with coming up with this idea at this stage, which is still early enough to see if we can shape this in the right way. And even though people will say, well, why would China be interested in this? Well, China is not Iran. China is evil. China has murdered more of its own people than any regime on earth. There's nothing much more evil than truly dedicated communists, and they sure are that. But they're not insane. They want to be the strongest and richest country in the world. You can't be that if you're all dead. Russia understood that. That's why the president and everyone else says Iran cannot be nuclear, because there we have an insane person running the country, a religious maniac. I don't even say a distortion of his religion, a credible interpretation of his religion. If you credit certain parts of the Quran that out of a generosity of spirit to Muhammad, some people read out, which is to destroy the infidels. So, and I don't see the risk that we face in discussing it. Most of what they know about AI and ASI, they've stolen, the Chinese, from us or from somebody else. Hopefully, we're doing a better job now of keeping control of that. Hopefully. But if we're not, we should have rules and some degree of control, each of us imposing limits on ourselves and transparency, so that neither one of us can destroy the world through some kind of a science fiction now, but possibly realistic superintelligence that's beyond human intelligence. Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live. Live from New Hampshire, which is where we are today. Friday, we did it from New York. Remember, it was the day of Bernard Kerrick's funeral. A very sad day, but a beautiful, beautiful mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Sending Bernie off as the very concluding part of the mass says, so that the angels can escort him into paradise. I always thought that was one of the most beautiful parts of the funeral mass. Probably it sticks with me because when Cardinal Cushing said the funeral mass for John F. Kennedy, which of course was in Latin at that time, he did that last part in English. And with his Boston accent and his very, very stentorian voice, it just went right through you. And he called him Jack. Of course, he knew him since he was a child. Well, the Wall Street Journal, I think they really want us to go into recession so that Trump can have a failure. Even though job growth held steady, unemployment has stayed in a tight range, according to this. And they don't mention that the whole danger of inflation, which they've been predicting now, is about the lowest that it's been in years. And there are massive investments in America that are completely unprecedented. They say, there's a really good chance that we should be worried about a recession. The U.S. economy, which weathered false recession alarms in 2023 and 2024, is entering another uncomfortable stomach. Every indication is that our economy is doing fine, except there could be a recession. They are wacky on the subject of tariffs, meaning the Wall Street Journal, like wacky. You see these where these tariffs have been negotiated and we're making a fortune. Like, did Allison mention that? Who mentioned that, Ted?
Allison.
Probably. Yep, Allison. Yeah. They don't even bother reporting that. You got to go find that somewhere else. There is a very, very good suggestion that the Senate is making on the big, beautiful bill. And what they're saying is, and this makes a great deal of sense, and I think you'll get it right away. A major part of that bill is to continue the Trump tax cuts of 2017, which were, even I think the Wall Street Journal would say, a massive stimulus to our economy and created before the pandemic one of the strongest economies we've had in 50 years. Now, it wasn't just the tax cut. The tax cut was the icing on the cake. It was the regulatory reform, the negotiations that Trump had done with tariffs and with trade, including a new agreement with Canada and Mexico. So those tax cuts are all in jeopardy. They all run out in the end of December because they were all done they were all done with a termination on them, so they wouldn't be added to the long-term deficit. Because OMB and all of the predictors and so-ons and geniuses, they'll look at a tax reduction and they'll say, if you're going to reduce the tax by 10%, and that 10% means that you're going to get $1 billion less, because that's 10%, then you take $1 billion out. It doesn't calculate, except on a very modest scale. Well, is it possible that by reducing that tax, you're going to create a lot more business and you're going to collect more from the lower tax? So, I mean, that I'm a big disciple of that, because I did that. I did that with the hotel occupancy tax. I cut it in half, and within a year, I was collecting, and within 2 years, I was collecting double from the lower tax. I think it was 22%. I cut it to 12. And I doubled and then tripled and then quadrupled what we were making on it. So when that was taken out of my budget, that turned out to be absolutely wrong. It turned out to be something that helped produce a surplus. But that aside, one of the major incentives to business in the original tax cut was letting businesses immediately deduct the full cost of capital investments. So if you let's say you have a factory and you're going to double the size of the factory, and that's going to cost you $20 million. Under the prior rules, you would have to depreciate that on a 10-year basis. So you divide it by 10 and you deduct that each year. Now, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is inflation has you paying more than you actually spent on it. Then if inflation goes up 20%, you actually spent 20% more. You have to pay 20% more in tax. So this allows you to deduct it all in the first year, if you want. And that has been, if you buy $100,000 machine and its useful lifespan is 10 years, you'd have to do $10,000 a year. Now with the new law, you can do it all at once. And that's the way it's been working since 2017. That would be gone, and we go back to the ridiculous way that's very, very harmful to business. Now they're going to pass it, and they're going to put a limit on it again. And what the Wall Street Journal and many economists are suggesting is to make these business deductions that have worked. We know they work. Make them permanent, because there is a certain possible effect on long-term investment. So if you're going to make like a 20-year investment and you don't know if this is going to change on you, you don't make that investment. It's an excellent suggestion. And of course, they're going to have to find someplace else. They've got to find someplace else in the bill to make up for it. And what they suggest is to reduce the House bill's $40,000 state and local tax deduction cap, or scrap one of Trump's tax breaks: tips, overtime, seniors, auto loan interest. Well, I don't know how much you get out of that, but if I were forced to pick one of those, and even though this hurt me tremendously when it went into effect, I'd pick the state and local tax deduction, because I consider it unfair. I consider it unfair that people who live in these high tax states get a deduction because they live in a high tax state, where people who don't, and therefore are funding it. And it's creating an incentive for the Californias and the New Yorks to destroy themselves. So if you could find the money there, it'd be a lot better than tips or which they say doesn't have much of an effect on the economy, unless you're a waiter, or Social Security, unless you're old. And we're talking there about tax deductions that help the working people. I wouldn't say the working poor, but the working people. You know, like I've said, Musk doesn't get tips. I don't think he's really worried much about Social Security. You got to be a person who has, some degree of limited means for that. And those are exactly the people Democrats say Trump isn't helping. It's exactly who he is helping. And they don't want to help because they're not voting for the bill. Bibi Netanyahu should have been a general. So now what he's doing is he's arming some of the non-Hamas groups in Gaza to help him completely eliminate Hamas. And there's of course some criticism of that because these groups could themselves be terrorist groups. But the point is, let's get rid of Hamas. Then we can worry about them. We'll see if they are or they aren't. They might be able to prove themselves. Because he wants to take advantage of the time that he's being given to make sure that he completely eliminates Hamas. I mean, the collateral benefit from what I think basically should have been done in delaying solving the Iran nuclear problem is that Bibi is pretty much on his own right now with Gaza. And he's doing a good job. And he's also doing some work for us in Yemen, even though we made peace with Yemen, more or less. They still attempt attacks on Israel. So Israel does whatever it can to destroy them, which benefits us because as soon as they can, they're going to turn on us, which all gets to the point that we have got to remove the potential for nuclear weapons, 100% remove from Iran. This is the time. If we pass it up, who knows when we're going to get it again. Iran is extremely weak. Their sponsors like China and Russia are tied up in other things more important to them than Iran. Syria's gone. They're not going to help them. Who's going to help them? There's just nobody around to help them. That could change. You see how quickly the world changes in unpredictable ways. When you have an opportunity to knock the champ out, knock him out, don't toy with them anymore. Because they're very, very good at stringing you along. And the longer they can string us along, the better chance there is that things change in the world. And what now appears to be a very, very weak Iran becomes a strong Iran. And all they have to do is wait them out to the next group of Democrats come along, and they'll start getting billions of dollars from the Democrats. I don't know why. I do not know why Biden and Obama funded Iran, but they did. The biggest economic support for Iran was the United States of America, even though Iran kills Americans, even though the reign of, I shouldn't say Iran. Well, I could say Iran. I don't mean the Iranian people. I mean the reign of terror. And also, from everything I know, they're poised to overthrow the Ayatollah. They're also, but I can't credit these the same way I can the reports from Iran, because there I have a good deal of inside information. Iran, I'm talking about. But there are a lot of reports about China and how unstable the Xi Jinping regime is. Now, I don't know. I don't know how true they are. I don't know how true that is. It comes from very good sources, people that wouldn't have any reason to be making up a lie. On the other hand, we don't have the insight or the intelligence inside of China that we do inside of Iran, because we've got our own. We've got groups like the MEK. Of course, we've got Israel. Israel is all over them. I mean, look. I mean, Israel knew exactly where all their plans were. And that when they did their bombings, they made clear they showed Iran that. Just like Ukraine knew exactly where to bring the trucks with the explosives that they had. It had to be an inside job to do that. Those are pretty darn effective intelligence operations. That can close down too. So you got to take advantage of it when you have it. And right now we have it. So Ted, did you ever pay much attention to Terry Moran?
I always thought he was kind of an odd duck.
Has he always been an odd duck?
Well, I don't know if that's fair.
Stephen Miller is a good friend of mine. And
Yeah,
I
so-
got to know Stephen during the 16 campaign. And I'm going to tell you, this is horrible. The things that he's saying about him. Stephen Miller is a first-class
let's bring it
person.
up.
He's a very, very smart person. He's a very moral and decent person. He's an extraordinarily patriotic American who cares only about the good of America as he sees it. Of course, we all see it in different ways, but he's dedicated to that. And for this guy to attack him like this,
It's disgusting. Let's see if I'm trying to.
also to display such bias about Trump. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred is only a means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. This guy thinks he can do a spiritual analysis of another person. Who does he think he is, God?
So we have it up there on the, so people can read it there on the screen.
It's not brains, it's bile.
So
Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him. So this guy can see into your brain by looking at you, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. And then Trump also, his hate is his spiritual nourishment. So this guy is a guy who can divine spirit. What are you, freaking nut? Impartiality. This violated ABC's, this is the biggest joke of all, standards on impartiality and objectivity. My God, to violate their standards you must have really done something. You'd almost have to kill somebody to violate their standards, right? You'd have to kill poor Stephen. So, I mean, is this guy gone now? Are we finished with him?
So that's the question. He's currently suspended. And as you can imagine, they've worked up their audience in such a way that some of the ABC audience is now upset that they suspended him, right? Because some of them have been brainwashed.
If we go back they went back and they found some earlier statements that he made also, that he should have been thrown, as bad as this, but ABC, at that time wasn't sucking up to Trump.
Right.
He had at least two others back during Trump's first term, and then one of them was a year into Biden's term.
Well, put in your earpiece, Mayor. We've got a little clip here. Here's some history on Mr. Terry Moran going back to Barack Obama.
Barack Obama
What did he
was the
say?
first
What did he say?
president since George
Play it now. Put it on your.
to be taking a step down into the Oval Office. I mean, from visionary leader of a giant movement, now he's got an executive position that he has to perform in.
The question you can sense on everyone's mind as they listen so intently to him Is he the one? Is Barack Obama the man, the black man, who could lead the Democrats back to the White House? Around here, they're even naming babies after him.
In 2016, Bernie Sanders changed the Democratic Party. He made democratic socialism cool for millions of voters. Bottom line, Roe versus Wade is overruled. There is no constitutional right to an abortion. Let's not mince words. Women will die because of this ruling. This is a court not of judges, but of politicians in judges' robes. Fight for Trump, not fight for America. He has the Republican Party as a personalized power like we haven't seen. It's a caudillo, it's a Caesar, it's a Führer. We don't see that in this country. We do now. It's much more like sometimes you see in other countries, an authoritarian figure, maybe who has crossed the line of legality, still with an army of supporters. And that, in fact, the White House at this point is a laughingstock.
That's right.
In the capitals of Europe.
Looking to shore up shrinking support with the white voters he needs to recapture the White House, the president boasted about rolling back an Obama-era fair housing rule, stirring racist fears.
This is why he was sent here, by people who want to hear that message of America first. However, it carries with it overtones from the 1930s when an anti-Semitic movement saying we don't want to get involved in Europe's war. It's the Jews' fault in Germany. Charles Lindbergh led them. It is a term, as he defined it his way, but the words themselves carry very ugly echoes in our history.
Well, I mean, this guy should have been gone a long time ago. I mean, here, I just made a couple of notes here. Women will die because of the Roe against Wade reversal. Well, I don't know if that's true, but it's certainly true that babies live. Ever think about that, Terry? About all the babies they kill? How about they kill more babies than they birth in Harlem that are black? That's nice, huh? And Trump is a Führer? And Trump is anti-Semitic? My God, if Trump is anti-Semitic, there's nobody that isn't. I mean, there's nobody that's done more for Israel and the Jewish people than Trump as a president. He is steadfastly supporting Israel, unlike Biden, who double-crossed the hell out of them, and Schumer. And he is taking up the cause of anti-Semitism in a way that no president ever has. So that's sure one heck of an anti-Semite. Maybe you got that all screwed up because maybe you are. I don't know. You sure are crazy. But you know, someone made the point, Ted, that the good thing about this guy is at least he's honest, right? A lot of these guys feel this way. Who knows how many? Probably 70, 80% of them, but they just don't say it.
Well, Mayor, that's
directly. Or maybe they do and they get away with it. I mean, he got away with it. The stuff that he said in the past is just as bad as this.
It is. And he did get away with it. And
women will die. Trump is anti-Semitic. Right. Trump is a Führer. And Stephen Miller's spiritual nourishment is hatred. And the president's spiritual nourishment is hatred.
It's a crazy thing to say. But I will say I'm a little surprised he would kind of write it like that. He must have been.
Pardon me?
I guess maybe some folks are surprised that he put it out there in the open. But I will say I'm not surprised. We've been around this, whether it's the president or the media, right? We've read enough and seen this enough the last 10 years. So I'm not surprised by his feelings. I guess what part of this surprises me? I guess at this point,
am I surprised at his feeling? I think all of ABC feels the same way.
Right. So
maybe not quite that personal.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe yeah. That seemed very personal.
That's pretty damn personal.
Like, that's like something you say to someone who killed your dog or something, right? Or that's how you talk about somebody who
he's decided that
he's a mean-spirited.
That Stephen Miller, can't have these viewpoints. That you have, in order to have these viewpoints, that people shouldn't be allowed in this country illegally. You got to be evil,
right? But the idea that someone like that should be covering this administration as an objective reporter is laughable. if he returns, he certainly shouldn't be returning to the White House. He certainly, I mean, look, he's doing a disservice to the ABC News viewers. The ABC News is doing a disservice to their viewers by not, if they don't fire him.
Well, ABC News was fully aware of who he is,
Right.
and how unfair.
Führer. We heard him. He compared him to Hitler directly. Yeah. But again, you know, the whole Democrat Party was doing that a few months ago.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
that was their last ditch effort, right?
Yeah,
they saw what was coming.
Hitler and racist.
What a slap in the face to every member of the greatest generation, your parents' generation, my grandparents' generation.
But what a great exposition of what a whole group of probably 80 to 90% of those reporters and commentators and whatever the hell else they consider themselves.
Right.
What sick, and also what sick people they are. That viewpoint is like a sick viewpoint.
Right.
Well, on that note, we'll invite you to go over to Rumble and where else is Maria?
Lindell TV.
Oh, Lindell, of course. What? Lindell's speech, Rumble. Is she on X too?
Maybe Lindell TV X, but I don't believe.
Oh, Lindell TV X. Okay.
LindellTV.com.
So safest thing is Lindell.
Yep.
And pick up Dr. Maria.
Right.
And we'll be back with you tomorrow at 7 on Lindell TV and X. And then we'll be back with America's Mayor Live at 8. And we'll see where we're going in LA. And then what else is happening in a world that is changing very, very quickly. And looks to me, in many respects, moving in the right direction. Couple could be straightened out a little, but Trump really seems to have just that military thing alone, in which Germany is now going to put 5% in, and the UK is going to actually Germany is going to increase their military by 50,000.
Wow.
There was even kind of a crazy report that I didn't put much stock in, that there's a risk of a war between Russia and Germany. I don't see that, but I do see Germany getting very, very serious about Russia and maybe about China, hopefully, because they do a lot of business with China. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Pray for the people of Los Angeles right now. Of course, you should pray for everyone in America, but especially the people of Los Angeles. Once again, they're at risk because of the horrible, horrible government they have. And this is really purely because of the government they have. Just like the fires were. I mean, the fires are the fires, and probably they would have done damage, but probably half or a third of what happened. I mean, how can you not have water in your hydrants? I guess if you actually don't think you have to follow federal law, and that you should be allowed to have all the illegal immigrants there that you want, I guess you're so stupid you don't put water in your hydrants, or so evil, or so whatever. Also pray for the people of Ukraine and Israel and Iran. And pray for the president. These are tough times. He needs all the help he can get and wisdom. And how about one more time, a little prayer for Bernie Carrick, my good friend who I still miss. And I'm going to miss him forever. But can't hurt to pray. And if he got where I think he got, maybe you should pray to him rather than for him. Well, we'll see you tomorrow night, 7 and 8 on X. God bless America.
Passed along the way. Well, I got down on my knees, and I pretend to pray. You know the preacher like the cold. He knows I'm gonna stay. California dreaming of such a winter's day.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense.